Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Teach, Sleep, Repeat. My name is Dylan.
And my name is Hayden, and it is cold as It is seriously cold, isn't it, Dylan?
Get the beeper out. Are we keeping that in then, yeah? We'll just beat it out, yeah?
Yeah,
Okay,
we're keeping it.
I'm not restarting.
We're keeping it.
Okay, it's cold.
Don't want to restart after 10 seconds, do we? That's too much effort. Yeah, feel my hands.
Don't touch me.
Feel my hands.
Please don't touch me. Please
It's
don't.
freezing.
Two things. Don't touch me anyway, even if you had lovely hands, which you don't. Horrible hands.
What do you mean? Did
No,
you
no.
need to insult me?
Yeah, I did, because your hands are either really clammy and sticky and horrible or freezing cold.
Wow.
Is there any point where your hands are just a normal temperature?
Do you know what? Right now, they are so clammy and freezing cold.
What do you mean?
I don't know. They're just really clammy.
The palm, the palm of your hands
of my
are wet.
hand
Okay.
is wet.
Okay.
And the back of my hand is like an ice cube.
You are such a specimen.
And I tell you what, I'm sat here, for those that aren't watching, I'm sat here in a jumper and I'm freezing cold. My hands are freezing. Dylan's sat in a t-shirt.
Yeah, because it's not that cold in here.
It is.
We're in a house. Very rarely in a house is it cold enough.
Wow. I don't know about that. This house pretty freezing all the time. I'm just a cold person. I think we're very different with that. I mean, to be fair, you yesterday when it was about minus 50 degrees outside, you turned up at my house. I was in 3 layers and you were in a t-shirt outside, and even you said, this is probably a little bit silly.
Outdoors, absolutely.
God, anyway.
But do you know, I put it down to two things. One, my warm northern blood. The further north you're born, the warmer your blood is. Just true. The warmer your blood is. And the second thing is, I'm already always wearing a layer because of the hair on my skin. That's
true.
like a sweater in itself. I've basically got an inverse sweater on. I've got a sweater against my skin and then a t-shirt on.
And don't forget the tattoos. Obviously, they help.
They do.
They give another layer.
They do
don't
that inch. They're dark, so they trap the heat.
Yeah, that's right.
Keeps me warm.
Yeah.
Only in this one part.
Oh, that's why you're in a black t-shirt and black. I get it now.
Yeah,
You're really clever,
Yeah,
scientist.
Thank you.
Anyway, how are you? How's your little boy? Because he's been poorly.
No,
hasn't
he has been very poorly. Anyway, anyone listening who's got children, I think recently I spoke about how, the first time they get ill is not nice, isn't it? And this was a few weeks ago with Rory, where he had like a little sniffly cough and like a bit of a snotty nose. And I was like, it's not nice, is it? Shouldn't have really said that, because then within 2 weeks, like this weekend, Rory got RSV. For anyone who doesn't have kids, which I noticed, by the way, you either know what RSV is because you have young children, or you have no idea what RSV is. People are saying, what's that? And it's just a really bad virus, basically. And with young children specifically, can be quite dangerous, where, their oxygen can drop and it can cause things like pneumonia and bronchiolitis. Right. And essentially, Rory, we had to take him to hospital, and we took him to A&E for children. And then he ended up having to stay the night. He was on oxygen just to get his oxygen levels up. And it's always scary because even though he seems okay in himself, you see the numbers are low and you're like, I know this could go one of two ways. He could just deteriorate a bit, get pneumonia, really struggle. But luckily he stayed the night and he recovered really well. And he just we slowly weaned him off the oxygen, and then he was sent home on the Monday. But they were saying basically they think it was bronchiolitis in the end. He ended up with. He's at home still. With an asthma pump now, getting the steroids he needs.
Oh, little boy.
But it's horrible. It's not nice. And it's one of them things where, as a parent now, I realise what other parents mean when they say, you kind of just get through it without thinking. Beforehand, I'd be like, oh God, how do you cope? How can you cope seeing your little baby doing
You just
that?
have to. Yeah.
It's not nice, but you just have to, They needed to put a cannula in his foot. And they were trying to put a cannula into his hand. They did it like 2 or 3 times, but couldn't find the vein. Ugh. So someone's just stabbing his hand. I'm holding him. He's having a breakdown.
Getting stabbed.
Screaming, getting stabbed by strangers on it, literally. The next try his foot. He had something on his big toe that was monitoring his oxygen levels and his blood and his heart rate, sorry. He had something on his nose. He had strapped in the oxygen tube.
Right.
So he had tubes coming out of his nose.
Oh, no.
And that was where the oxygen was going in, and he hated it. He just wanted everything to be off.
Well, he doesn't know, does he?
No, he doesn't know. And all he sees are 2 people coming in. It was Rory's like, he doesn't smile immediately when someone comes in. He's got a bit of a face taking everything in, but he warms to people. But it got to the point where if someone came to the curtain, it felt like he was almost scared, because he just knew. Yeah. Well, that person's wearing what all the other nurses wore, and last time someone came in with a needle and they were trying to get
my hand,
and I really hated it.
Yeah.
But the overall news is, he's back home. He's fine.
Good.
We're not going out anywhere yet because it's freezing, and we just do groups and stuff. And we still obviously got RSV potentially.
Yeah, it's contagious.
So the idea of passing that on to other people, I do know. But yeah, he's all good. And do you know what? 2 things. We're very lucky. There are other children who are literally in the ward opposite, who they were talking about how they'd been in hospital for 2 weeks. They won't be in hospital. They won't get out of hospital for another few weeks just because they need to find out what's going on with their child.
God.
That child was just sad, in pain constantly.
Yeah.
It just puts things into perspective. And the other thing is being a teacher and someone who for the last year and a half has really fought on this podcast and in general with my peers to say, look, we're doing too much, that it's not acceptable. It is a job at the end of the day, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Okay, you can say it's important for the kids. We all agree with that, but come on, there's got to be a line. Then I went in and I was like, oh, cool. I met that nurse who did a 14-hour shift. And she started off with the most lovely smile, really good with Rory, making him happy. She loved him. He loved her, like over the top nights, doing everything she could for us. Still the same attitude 14 hours later when we were being discharged and she was writing up our notes. Amazing people working in the hospital who just in the background, you don't know in your everyday life that that's happening. Right now that's happening. In any hospital near you, wherever you're working, wherever you're listening to this podcast, there's a hospital near you where there's a team of like 30 people in one part of the hospital, which is just the children's ward, who are working their socks off because they love helping the children and being completely selfless and doing this job because they love doing it. And they're not getting the praise and recognition they deserve. And there's a lot of them who don't care and they're just doing it anyway. And they're just the best people in the world.
And do you know what the government comes to the conclusion of? Oh, let's not pay them then.
Yeah. Let's give them a clap.
They'll do it anyway.
Yeah. And it's just when
that's when we get annoyed.
Yeah, and when you think about the people in the government and the kind of stuff they're slimy. They don't turn up for their debates. They don't go in and properly talk about stuff. They just think
everything's expendable. They get paid for everything.
I'm getting a cheap dinner on the Westminster Cafe because it's subsidised by the taxpayer. And I'm just like, you have no idea. You are honestly disgusting. Yeah. And there are some good politicians. I know that. But the whole thing just stinks to me.
Yeah,
when you know that's going on.
For that, knowing that the people that work in the NHS don't have the same system in place where they could maybe reap those same rewards.
Yeah. But the point was, you know what, we'll come out of it with a healthy child and all happy and
I'm glad
just
he's
amazing.
Right. I'm glad he's feeling better. Well, that was extremely depressing. Should we end the episode there?
No. It's good news.
No, I'm glad he's all right.
Children get ill. I was saying to Lauren, my partner, we were like, do you know what? He just needed a bit of help.
Yeah.
He just needed a bit of help for a bit. And do you know what? We're lucky enough to be in a system, although it's breaking, my child could get that help.
Yeah, exactly.
And that was really important.
And we live extremely close to the hospital where we are, so you could literally just drive down the road.
Yeah, we did.
And get him seen. Yeah. So, no, it's good.
Yeah, how about your week then? Was it a bit less, I don't know, depressing?
Do you know what? I don't really want to talk about my week at school because it was a very normal week. Sometimes the weeks at school are just totally bog standard. It was just really, really standard. But I have enjoyed. We played snooker last night, and we've been mentioning this a lot recently. You'll start to realise that we get obsessed with things, and we'll do one thing for a while. We played a bit of snooker last night. It was really enjoyable, and I know even you last night mentioned it's nice to just have a bit of downtime.
Yeah.
And it really is. So last night, my partner, who's also called Lauren, obviously, if you've listened to this as well, you know that. She said, oh man, I just need some time. She was like, can I just go?
I'm going to snooker, bye.
Yeah, she's like, can I just go to... Sorry, Lauren. No, you can't.
Because she's also a teacher, right?
That's sorry, I probably should have put that in context. But she was like, I just need some time, especially with the kid as well, because obviously she's looking after our little one a lot of the time.
Because she works part-time.
She works part-time.
Not because you're an absent father.
No, I'm an absent father. Sorry, love, I'm busy doing the podcast. All right? I've got 7 episodes to record this week. We'll do 12 takes because I said something wrong and Dylan freaked out.
Well, you swore after 10 seconds today. We'll get that in with a beep.
No, that stayed in, baby. And if we did edit it out, that would make no sense. But we didn't because we're just mad now. Anyway, she was like, can I just go to the shops for a bit because I just need some time. I was like, well, it's 7 p.m. Like everything's closed. She was like, no, just Sainsbury's. I was like, okay, you do you. Yeah. And then when she got back, 8:30, I was like, Dylan, want to go play some snooker? But I don't know, let's talk about that for a second. Like switching off in term time. I mean, how important is it? What do you do? I know we do the same sort of things.
Yeah, no, it is important. Was your Lauren, just quickly, did she feel refreshed?
Yeah, she did.
Yeah,
she
exactly.
did. Honestly, just from spending an hour and a half maybe in Sainsbury's, just without, the whole point was without River.
Yeah.
So it's just baby free time.
Yeah.
I can just actually look at the clothes. She wants to look at some Christmas pajamas.
Without River crying in her ear.
Yeah, screaming to move on or grabbing everything. It's like, okay, just go and have a bit of time.
I suppose the reason I asked that was because anyone listening, that's a point I wanted to make. It doesn't have to be a flashy thing. No. You don't have to go to the pub. No. It's nice to go to the pub. That might be one way that you do that and you cordon off your time and you just go and do it. Find what works for you. Because what works for me, I've found, and I've known this for a long time, and I think I've touched upon this previously, what works for me to switch off is doing something that seems just completely innate, where I'm playing snooker. Yeah, and I can really zone in on just thinking, where can I hit that ball that hits the other ball that it goes in the pocket? Literally. It's like solving a problem. Yeah. It's like doing maths. But in that moment, I am not thinking about anything outside of the snooker hall. So me and you might go together, play snooker. I play snooker with my other friend as well. We'll go and we will talk about nothing, like genuinely nothing, and that's great because we spend a lot of time talking, you and I, about the state of stuff. It's quite heavy. We do the education on the podcast and all that kind of thing. Do you know what? Sometimes we go snooker and we will chat nonsense. And after half an hour, I wouldn't be able to tell someone what we've been talking about.
Or we'll be honestly quiet.
Yeah.
Because most of the time you're being quiet anyway out of respect in snooker. You let the other person play their shot. And then you find all that just kind of continues.
Yeah.
You play along.
Yeah. And no one's awkward. You're just doing your thing.
Yeah, yeah.
It helps switch off.
And you took it really well when I won last night as well. I think that's worth mentioning.
Well.
Like you took it really well when I won 3-2 to me.
I thought you were being genuine.
I know. I can see your face, and I was like, I'm gonna ruin him.
I was like, did I?
Yeah. I was literally doing nothing but trolling you there.
That whole time I was talking about really genuine ways to switch off. You were just like, how can I get in and I beat him?
How can I
get in and I beat him? Because I beat him. And that isn't going to help him switch off, knowing that he's lost. Because he's lost, and I'm going to tell him again.
I'll tell you what, it makes me feel great. I went home thinking, I'm a winner. I'm a winner today, you know? And
But that's what I do to switch off. I will try and find some time. And honestly, anyone listening again, I'm talking to myself from 4 years ago as well. So don't think I'm being condescending here. Oh my gosh. Please take advantage of the time you have. If you're planning on having children at some point, or even if you're not, that's great. And I've got nothing against that. Please be aware of the free time that you do have.
Use it.
I know education is full of doing extra work and stuff. We talk about it all the time, but you still do have them nuggets of time. And oh my gosh, make the most of them.
And you don't have to. You don't have to. Like I think some people feel like we talked about last week's episode about teacher martyrs, where we went a bit unhinged. I think, I sort of talk about these teachers that maybe don't have certain responsibilities. They don't have children, perhaps, or don't have other responsibilities. I don't know, whatever it is, and then they sort of think to themselves, well, I've got this free time. I probably should do that extra planning, that extra marking. They almost like convince themselves, well, I've not got those other things to take up my time, so I should. No, you don't. You know what? You don't have to have kids to then finally put your foot down.
Exactly.
And be like, no, I actually can't do this anymore because I literally have a child to look after.
Yep. No,
you can just do that anyway.
Yeah, it's because it's a job.
Yeah.
That's the reason why.
Yeah.
And when people ask me, did Rory change that because they hear what I'm saying now? And they're like, oh, you're quite steadfast about this, actually. You're really on the ball. Was it because of Rory? And I go out of my way to say, no.
Yeah.
I was doing this anyway. Rory might have accelerated it.
Yeah.
Because it became less of a choice of me choosing to do this.
Yeah.
And more a necessity. But I was already on this path, and I think everyone should be. And I don't think parents have a monopoly on caring about their free time. No. Don't let anyone say that to you. If you don't have kids, so what? Your time is just as valuable as my time. Yes, I've chosen to have a child and I'm going to raise that child, and that's really important for society. That's true. And I'm happy to say that. And if you don't have children or can't have children, you are still just as valuable to society. Don't let someone saying that about them raising children make you feel less worthful. Worthful? Worthwhile. Because it's just not true. You are just as worthwhile. Your time is just as valuable. You can say no just as much as I can. I don't want to ever rest on the fact I've got a child as a reason why I'm saying no. No, because of Rory. No, because it's my weekend. And that's the same for everyone. I think that's powerful.
That's a really good point. And I think I fall into the trap of using River as a bit of a scapegoat, as a bit of a reason to justify it. And actually, I'm going to try and start doing that. I'm going to try and start saying, no, because it's the weekend, not no, because I've got my, it's my kid's party this weekend, so I'm not going to be able to get any. But no. It's the weekend. What do you stop talking to me? Stop
Your
telling
kid's
me I'm
party is honestly no more important than someone going to visit their friend down in Cumbria.
Sit down and watch a TV series because it's the weekend. It's your downtime. Enjoy it. Another nice thing. So before we move on, because I know you see it all the time, and when you send me messages from Instagram or email where you guys write into us, I just love it. And yesterday, I still haven't replied to this guy because we got an email from someone in Australia, and it was so nice to hear that people relate to us. This guy was basically writing in saying, oh my God, I can relate so much to this podcast, even from around the world, about all the stuff we're talking about, teacher martyrs and the state of education and all blah, blah, blah.
We even read it, didn't we? Well, you read most of it and showed me. And we said, we can't reply yet because we want to give it a really good reply. We
didn't want to do it in do a classic thanks for writing in, mate. Really nice to hear that. Glad you love it. I don't want to do that. I want to have a real conversation with this person. If you're listening, if you know who you are for some reason, then I will reply properly. Hopefully I have by now.
No, it's nice. But I see it all the time. See it all the time. Comes in on Instagram at Teach Sleep Week Podcast. Guys, do follow us. It really does make our day when we get people messaging saying we listen to you. Someone messaged the other day saying you make my Monday evening dog walk, and I'm just like, the idea that we are part of a routine for someone.
Yeah, I love that.
Where they know Monday, cool. I'll get through Monday. This evening, I'm going to walk the dog, listen to Teach, Sleep, Repeat. And I'm like, oh my God, that's insane to me. The idea that exists.
Fuels my ego.
It does, doesn't it?
It does. It makes me want to do this more. And it's good. You know, this, in all honesty, I mean, we're like, 88 episodes into this. Yeah. We're doing this for a laugh still. Yeah. This is just a passion project. We do it for fun. We like talking about stuff. We'd have this chat anyway. And we thought, why not record it? Because some people might want to listen as well. Yeah. So the fact that you guys are here giving us love, we absolutely love it. But we still get, and I know I'm just going to trigger you now because you see it, and I'm lucky to be away from this, but we still get the odd comment. We're talking like 2% of people who will just make some crappy comment to us. Or what was it? What was the one yesterday?
Well, they fall into two categories, these comments, right? There's one type of comment which is genuinely just hateful. Yeah. Like just doesn't care. It's almost as if they've not listened to the video we posted. It doesn't matter. They just don't like teachers. Cool. Honestly, troll them, ignore them. I'll reply something silly or just be annoying, right? Yeah. And the other type are people who understand what they're talking about, but will then try and say that we're bad teachers. And I'm just like, I think that's worse. Yeah. Like if you're just a general troll, you're an idiot. I've not even got time for it.
Exactly.
It's not even it's water off duck's back.
Sarky comment, reply, funny,
whatever. There was someone the other day, I did a meme about there's that one child in your class who still doesn't listen to you after 17 times of explaining to it. Yeah. And someone commented going, a whole class doesn't know what you're doing. You must be a bad teacher. Yeah. And I just replied saying, well, you must have had a bad one because I don't know where you got the whole class from. Yeah. Like it
says one child.
Yeah, honestly, I was like, cool, that's the water off duck's back. And similarly, someone else the other day, but they felt like they were being serious. I did a post from last episode about teacher martyrs. Yeah. And I spoke about how sometimes the solution is saying no, because we're obsessed in education, and I think in most walks of life, where if you remotely dare to suggest something isn't working, you must have a way of coming back at it and having a solution.
An alternative.
And I think that's good. And I think we do that a lot on the podcast. We're always looking for a solution. And all I said was, though, that there is sometimes where no is the answer. And the solution is to not do it. So when are you going to get that display done? I'm not. That's the solution. Just don't do it. And someone commented on that saying, oh, well, you'll never get a job with that attitude. Did you see the bio where I said that we're two primary school teachers who also have a business on the side, and we like there's no part of this that we don't work? What are you talking about?
It's nuts. Do you find from because you chat to a lot more people, that there is I don't know if I'm being really stereotypical here. Is there a little bit of a disconnect, do you think, between generations, like ages of people? Do you find that people that comment that are normally of that older generation where the culture just was different in like the 80s and 90s? It was different. Work culture was different. Yeah. Or is it just random? Is it just...
No, do you know what? I'm going to be really, really clear how I word this, okay? When we get nice comments, it's from a wide range of ages. Yeah. A very wide range of ages. There's no one age where I go, oh, it's you. What we get a lot of is a lot of new teachers who just resonate a lot more with what we're saying. That's just because of what we're talking about. But when we get nice comments, it's any age. I've spoken to older teachers, middle teachers, younger teachers, really nice. When we get nasty comments, it's one of two things, right? When it's teachers, they're older.
Right.
Okay, when it's teachers, they're older, and they'll say, oh, I've taught for 45 years. It's always been hard workload. What are you moaning about? You've just got to do it for the kids. And I don't think they quite understand how times have changed. No. I don't think they quite understand how much pay has been squeezed. They're sitting in their house they bought for 40 grand when they were on 30 grand in the 80s. Okay, I don't think they quite get how the difference is now in terms of, even if expectation has stayed the same, what we're getting out of it as a society, as a person, as a young person in this country is much less than they were getting out of it. And that builds resentment, and that's normal and that's acceptable. They don't accept that. No. They just say, no, you should get on with it. Just get on with it. Do it. Stiff up a lip. Stop eating your avocados. Get rid of your Netflix and just get on with it. You're a teacher.
On. We didn't have avocados and Netflix when we were young.
Exactly. You also had to spend 10 buttons on a new door. So, give and take. And the other group are younger people who do angry comments who aren't in teaching.
Right, okay.
Okay, and there's some older ones, but when they're younger and they give angry comments, it tends to be they're not in teaching. Yeah. And they'll say something along the lines of, you sound like a bad teacher. I wouldn't want my kid to have you as a teacher. Yeah. And I'm just like, you have not got the slightest clue how passionate I am about helping children. Yeah. And how, honestly, at this point in my career, good I am at teaching children. Yeah. And what I'm saying on Instagram to my fellow professional that we put out there for people to listen about what teaching's like is not what I'm putting out there for my children in an English lesson?
No.
Are you insane? Are
Yeah.
you not intelligent enough to separate these two things out, where I can complain and say things are broken without then, of course, I'm completely shielding my children in my class from that. I'm going to give them the best I can.
I guess it is nuance, isn't it? People don't know people don't understand the nuance. And rather than recognizing, maybe I don't understand the nuance of this, and that this has triggered me in some sort of way, but I'll leave it because I probably just don't understand something about the profession. This is much more tempting and easy just to be a keyboard warrior. Yeah. I've been there, done it. I've been a keyboard warrior, mate.
You've done it in a different context.
Done it, yeah. I go on everyone else's profession. I follow every profession except teaching on Instagram, and I'll come and say, "Oh, think your job's hard, do you? Try teaching. Race to the bottom, baby. Try this." Everyone's job. That's all I do.
Yeah, it's never, oh, that's true. It's always, I'm worse than you.
Yeah.
I've got it worse than you. So you should
teachers always moan. How about your 13 weeks holiday? How about you enjoy them?
Yeah. Do you want to join teaching?
Yeah, come and do it then.
Come on in. My goodness. Right. I think we should move on to the main bulk of this episode. Yes. I'm looking forward to this because for the first time, and I think the whole history of the podcast, you know more about something than I do. That's unbelievable.
I don't know. We'll find out.
Ofsted have been in the news in the last couple of weeks. Never out the news, it seems. But big news with Ofsted, which is proposals. I don't know if they were leaked or if they were kind of released to see what people think or if it was on purpose. But either way, we've got an idea of what Ofsted want to do from September 2025. So very, very brief recap. Ofsted, for a long time, are facing pressure because they were just too draconian and instilling fear in schools and not seen as useful from educators. And unions were saying this needs to change. The general election happened and it seemed like lots of things moved quite quickly, especially with the incident with Ruth Perry. And I feel like in the last couple of years, it was like, okay, we're going to move towards reforming Ofsted. Everyone thought that was great. People trust that it was going to happen. I'm not sure, but we're moving towards, okay, we're going to do that. And the old way, and we'll go into more detail in a second, they brought in some immediate changes. So Labour said, no, we're going to change this right now from September 24 because this needs action right now. And then they were basically given from September 24 to September 25 to come up with a whole new framework of how Ofsted works. So that's where we're at a minute. And what's just happened is we're in the interim kind of period of some changes have happened to Ofsted, others haven't. And what's been leaked is what the plans are for the future. And it feels like it sparked a lot of controversy, a lot of uproar. So I'm going to throw over to you because you've done a lot of research on this. I think before we get into what the new system that's being proposed is and whether it's good or bad or whatever our opinions are, let's just clarify very quickly for people then this kind of 3-step process I'm seeing with Ofsted, which is the old method. Labour come in and say, we're going to get rid of stuff straight away, so the interim method, and then we'll dive into what the changes will actually be.
That sounds good.
So Ofsted, traditionally, so last few years, before September this year, what did an Ofsted inspection look like?
Let's just go to the big bits, especially the bits that people had a problem with, right? So Ofsted traditionally, for all of my career and longer, has been this force of driving standards up, which is what they say, okay? However, their system involves, it's a one-word grading system, essentially. This is what people have a real big problem with, is the fact that a school is judged after the whole Ofsted procedures happened and they get one word. And it's not even a massive scale. It's not like there's 10 points on this scale and there's like, oh, you're somewhere in this. It's literally just, basically, you're either good, amazing, or you're crap. And that's what they did. They came into schools and did that. And obviously that, you spoke about Ruth Perry. That is the perfect example of how that system was so flawed and just absolutely decimated schools. Over potentially one area that needed improvement in the school and everyone else working hard. And they got this one word grading. Oh, we've all worked so hard, haven't we? They said English was really good and I'm the English lead. Your school, though, requires improvement. Oh, okay. Brilliant. So that was the old system. You didn't know them when they were coming. So another huge factor of stress was, honestly, I remember, because we went through the Ofsted procedure not long ago, head teachers would just wait. Every day just thinking, God, we know we're in the Ofsted window because it's been X amount of years and that school up the road has been Ofsteded and normally we get Ofsted after them. Every day waiting until 12 o'clock thinking, oh, is that phone going to ring? Is that phone going to ring? Is that phone going to ring? Because I'll tell you what, because when they ring, they come in the next day. You get no time to prep whatsoever. So that was another huge problem. And just, I guess, summarising the system, there were different types of inspections. I'm not going to go into the details of what they are. You just need to know that there were full inspections and there were other inspections for schools where they'd basically just come in and check that to see if you're still the same grading. That was a different type of inspection to a full one. But yeah, there were different types of inspections. Inspectors would come in, a team, it could be one person, it could be 6 people, depending on the size of your school. They'd come in, they'd scrutinise certain areas, they'd deep dive. So again, not always been like that, but in the last couple of years, they've had the deep dive system where they'd come in and say, we're going to look at this subject and this subject, and we are going to literally deep dive into it, and we're going to look at every possible aspect of that subject in your school and like really, really scrutinize deep. And if you're the geography lead in a we will still do geography. If you're the geography lead in a primary school, you're sat there thinking, like, sweating, thinking, oh God, I've not been paid anything for this. I've had absolutely no time out to do this. And they're going to come in and scrutinize every single element of geography in my primary school. Very stressful.
Very stressful.
So hopefully I got across that idea of stress from the old system.
What you summarised really well there, just to jump in, is why schools, in particular, educators, were not happy with the current system.
Yeah.
You can see why the government might have been happy with it. The parents might have been happy with it. I had a message this week from one of my close friends whose child is starting school in the next couple of years. And he sent me a couple of websites from different schools in the area. And he said to me, because he listens to the podcast, and this was really interesting because I thought, oh, okay, this is something we need to think about. He said to me, hey, picking between these two schools, how would you do it if I wasn't looking at the Ofsted report?
That's
so his point was, as an educator, we say, guys, there's nuance here. You can't just look at the one word. You can't just look at that school's outstanding, that school's good. It doesn't necessarily tell you the whole picture.
Yeah.
But it really opened my eyes to thinking, okay, if you're not in this industry, though, perhaps that system has got a little bit of an ounce of defense to it because a parent can look at it and very quickly go, well, I want to get into the outstanding school.
Yeah.
Now, I don't get me wrong. I had a whole conversation with him about whether that's the right thing to do or not, what might be good, what might be bad. But the point being that this system was well known by parents as well. Yep. And when educators come along and say, no, it's too simple, we need to change all of this, I can kind of see why some people might be like, oh, I get your concerns, but like, okay, so what do I do otherwise then?
Yeah. It's extremely easy to navigate the old system. Like, what's more simple than one word, genuinely, for parents? So I get it. I can see why that's desirable. But like you said, equally, with your friend, luckily was, I guess maybe from listening to this or just knowing you in general was knowledgeable enough to be like, okay, this is probably not everything I should base this off. But Ofsted, we've said it in long ago in an episode, it should be a system where parents actually, rather than just having one word, they can actually, they're guided towards the things they should think about. Your friend didn't know what to look at. Yeah. And you probably said, well, maybe go in and look at the provision. Maybe think about your child specifically.
Yeah.
And think, what do they need? And go and see if the school does that.
Sure.
Because I tell you what, there'll be outstanding schools that will absolutely not meet the needs of your specific child, and there'll be good schools that definitely do.
Absolutely.
But they didn't tick all the boxes. They didn't get outstanding. And so it's like, we spoke before, was like, when Ofsted we need a way for parents to get the proper information.
Yeah, so true.
But it didn't.
And the information parents need is sometimes different to what educators want. So for example, my first thought of that was, I'll say something about, we'll see what teacher retention is like. That's usually a good indication, right? And for people wanting to work there, if I wanted to get a job, that's one of the first things I'd look at. It's probably not the first thing I'd look at as a parent, though. If I was just a parent looking at a school, I know some schools, right, where staff turnover is not good, but the children get an excellent deal.
Yeah.
And there is a disconnect there. And I'm just saying, if it's just a parent's point of view, not trying to fix education, he's just seeing what school to send his kid to, that's not necessarily the same. So there is nuance here. It's tricky. That's why we want something a bit more, detailed, let's say. We want to change this system. But the main driving force, to go back to what you said, everything you just summarized about the old system, was that for educators, it was unbelievably stressful. There was an unknown to it.
Yeah.
You had a lucky dip almost of inspectors in terms of whoever you got. Honestly, I've spoken to schools who had inspectors who were maths specialists. And as a maths lead, you could say to them, well, we do this, this, and this. The maths specialist inspector kind of just gets that and says, oh, I understand. That's excellent. Sounds great.
Yep.
They'll get another inspector in a different school who I've spoken to, where the chief inspector there is nothing to do with maths, maybe an English specialist. As a maths lead, they were saying, we do this, this, and this. And the inspector kind of was like, oh, I'm going to need to see some evidence of that. Yeah. Where can I see this in your books? Or I don't understand what you mean. Or I've been given this framework and I don't know if that matches up. When actually what they're doing is fine.
Yeah.
So that kind of lucky dip from inspectors as well was a big thing.
Yeah.
So thinking about what Ofsted was like.
Yeah.
Obviously, Labour win the general election. A big thing for Labour. Labour always are trying to portray themselves as huge in education on the side of teachers. Most teachers vote for Labour. So they've got a vested interest in keeping that core community happy with them. So Labour very quickly said, okay, we're going to change some stuff immediately.
Yeah, they did.
From the top down. What did they change then as of September this year? Because there'll be some people who have Ofsted who'll be thinking, this is pretty much the same. What do you mean? I didn't know it changed.
Do you know what? It does. It will. It will feel mostly the same, because what they changed was the easier things they could change quickly. They scrapped the one-word gradings straight away. So
but did they? Because I heard we still got one-word gradings, right? Like
there's no overall grading.
Right.
Now.
Okay.
So there's no overall grading. So the school, like the banners where people put our school is, outstanding. They scrapped the overall grading. So they still look at the areas. So there are 4 areas that Ofsted have traditionally looked into at your school.
And that's not changed yet.
That's not changed. And those 4 areas would then kind of amount to this overall grading, where somewhat tangibly to this overall grade. So they've scrapped the overall grading. But they will still go into your school and grade you on the quality of education, behaviour and attitudes, personal development, and leadership and management. They're the 4 areas that pre-existed with Ofsted, still currently exist in this interim. They just won't at the end of it say, so therefore your school is good. All right?
That sounds like a good thing. Because you're still grading, you know, areas, which we all agree we kind of need to do, right?
Yeah.
And maybe not officially grade them, but we need to know if they're going on. Yeah. But we don't then say, you know, okay, so let's say we got good, outstanding. The school would be good.
Yeah.
Right. It might be very easy to lose the fact that quality of education at that school is outstanding.
Exactly that.
And as a parent, you might love the idea of, okay, but the education, oh my gosh, my kid's going to get the best education ever.
Yeah.
And the behavior is outstanding as well, let's just say.
Yeah.
But the leadership management's good. The personal development's good. Okay, well, as a father of a child, behavior and learning is outstanding though, even though the school's good.
Yeah.
And that kind of level of nuance, I think, is an improvement.
I agree. I think it's a step in the right direction. I think you think there's going to be a certain percentage of parents who, even if that was on the report card originally, which it was on Ofsted, if you really look at the report, you would have seen those things underneath the overall grading. Yeah. There would have been a lot of parents who only look at the overall grading though and stop there. Yeah. And actually now it's like, well, no one can do that. And now you have to look at the 4 areas, and you are automatically getting a slightly better understanding of that school.
And when you move house, I know we've both gone through the process of moving house. We moved house knowing that Rory was on the way. So it became a thing just to look at school catchment. Never before had we even considered it. Yeah. And when you move house and you're on like Rightmove or Zoopla and stuff, it will list education because it knows it's a big thing. Yeah. But it only says school grading. So it's like, I'm going to move to this area because there are 2 outstanding schools there. Oh, that area has 3 good schools. So we want to move to this area here. Yeah. It would affect house prices. Yeah. And you know what? In 5 years, it could flip. Yeah. It could change. And it became so important, and it's malleable, and people forget that. You know, you could have the idea now with Rory, he's just turned 1. Yeah. We might have an idea in our heads now, we want to send him to this school. 4 years is a long time in school. And it, you know, you can't plan that far ahead. And one-word gradings perpetuate this myth that there are outstanding schools, there are good schools, that's better, that's worse. Yeah,
I agree. I think that's a really, really good point. So also in this interim system, so that was like the biggest change, was they just immediately scrapped those overall gradings, because that was like the big thing that Labour were like, we're going to do this. You know, they got a lot of votes from that, I reckon. But other things they did, so there's another thing called ungraded inspections. And I was kind of getting on to earlier, like the different types of inspections. Sure. This is one of them. An ungraded inspection is when Ofsted come in to a school and it's not a full inspection. Maybe 7 years ago your school got good, and they're just coming in basically to check that you're still at that level.
So this is specifically for schools who are outstanding or good.
Outstanding or good, yeah. And they come in to see if you're still at that level. If they feel for any reason you're not, this is what we had, this is why I know about this, because we had this. If they feel for any reason that your school is no longer that grading because it's either better or they think it's worse, then it will trigger one of those full inspections. Yep. So for ungraded inspections, there's a few more things I'll whiz through. No more deep dives, effective immediately. They're just looking at subjects more in general. So no more deep dives. Great stress off our back.
So if your school's already good or outstanding, you no longer need to worry about the fact they might come and deep dive geography, even though you're just being given geography lead and you've got nothing to do.
Exactly. They're not going to not look at any subject, but they're not going to be like, we're only looking at geography today. Like
in so much
detail. In our one, it was very much like, here's 2 subjects out of 9, and we're only going to look at these 2.
History and maths.
Yeah, that's what it was. History and maths, and they absolutely spend the entire time looking at those 2 subjects. So no more deep dives. Same sort of point. They're not honing in on one subject. They'll look at groups of subjects instead. So, let's look at the foundation subjects in your school.
And they'll get all the subject leaders in one room. It's less interrogative, and more collaborative. Yeah. That's a good thing, again, I think.
Here's my favourite one. Genuinely my complete favourite, even more than the ungraded overall system. This is to me is the fact that they notify schools on the first day of the week.
Right.
So
I know still not brilliant.
It's not a huge change, but to me, I'm like, at least there's if you're getting inspected on a Friday, you'll find out on the Monday. You know, it's just the idea that head teachers were stressing 5 days a week, waiting for a phone call till 12 o'clock every single morning. It was just horrendous. Now at least it's like, okay, look, by Monday at midday, let's say, I don't know if it is midday anymore, but by Monday, the end of the Monday, you'll know whether or not you've been inspected that week. I was like, do you know what? That's 4 more days at least that you can be like, okay, let's get out.
Because the argument is still, if you know exactly when they're coming 2 months in advance, you play the game and look. And you know what? I kind of get that argument. I don't think schools would do that. We don't have the resources to do that. I don't think that'll happen. But even if that is your argument, at least this kind of it still allows for an element of surprise in that it's this week, but it's reduced honestly by 80%
Yeah.
the stress because you're not waking up every morning.
Yeah. Anyone that thinks that a school can play the game, honestly, even in a week or 2 weeks, you have nothing. You don't know about education.
No,
That's it. Simple as that.
You can get your ducks in a row, but you can't pretend things are happening when they're not, because they talk to the kids,
work.
and do you know what the kids always tell you anyway?
It's such a complex system in a school. It's just impossible to do that.
Yeah.
If it could, what Ofsted's model would be: we come in for a week and we sort your whole school out. Because if you could do it in a week, they'd come and do it.
Yeah, I like there's one thing they do now with safeguarding. In terms of but this jumped out at me as well. If the only downside is safeguarding, and it's not a really serious safeguarding event, but if the only downside is safeguarding, like maybe you're filing things slightly wrong.
Yeah, that's a classic one, isn't it?
That's a classic one where schools get really caught up in it, and because it used to be, right, safeguarding, that's an issue, no, whole school, no, needs improvement. And it's like, oh my God, I just filed this under the wrong like subcategory, and it wasn't put in exactly the right place. Needs to be fixed, yes. Worse, the whole school going into requires improvement and having a flag. Probably not. Yep. So depending on the severity, of course. But what they do now is they'll say, look, okay, we'll have like an interim of 2 to 3 weeks. Sort it out. We'll come back. We'll check it. And then we'll tick it off. Yeah. Rather than this whole cliff edge of if anything's remotely wrong with safeguarding ever, your whole school kind of shuts down. That level of nuance, I think, is good. Don't get me wrong. Safeguarding is the most important thing. Yeah. But when it's small things like that, clerical issues almost, give the school a week or two. Just to fix it, because then you know it's not a problem anymore. You know no children are in danger, and you can move on from there.
Yeah, I
quite
agree.
Like that one.
Because in the old system, there was a possibility of being like, quality of education at the school, outstanding, unbelievably good. Behaviour and attitudes, outstanding at this school. Personal development, really outstanding. Leadership and management, also outstanding. Well, I'm going to give it good, actually, because safeguarding, you're using a really outdated system, and it just wasn't logged properly, so the whole school requires improvement. It was just like, exactly. So there's a bit of leeway now for schools to fix those smaller things, which I really like.
But the big thing here then, we've kind of established what Ofsted was, how it changed immediately, where we are right now, this second, if you've got an Ofsted call as of recording, it will be this interim version, where it's a bit more stripped back. The reason that we have this interim version, though, and the word interim is being used, is because the whole idea was that we're going to move to a new system completely. A report card system was touted as the way to explain it. And I know you've done a lot of reading on this, and this is what came out in the news in the last week or two. We're going to move to this in September 2025. We're thinking of doing this. And there was, from what I saw, pretty unanimous pushback that it's insane. So, Hayden, I'm going to pass it over to you now. Can you explain what's going on? Where are we at? What's going on?
I'd like to get your raw opinions on this as well.
Yes, please do, because I've not read much about it, purposefully knowing you did a lot of research and to get kind of immediate thoughts here.
Okay, where do I start? All right, so we've scrapped the gradings. Let's have that as our context. We've scrapped these overall gradings already in the interim period, and then obviously those overall gradings are not coming back. Okay. However, there is going to be a new grading system, and let me explain what it is, because it will sound like the wrong thing before I get to the end. There is going to be a new grading system, okay, across 10 key areas in a school. So before we had those 4 key areas that I mentioned, where they were kind of graded, and that sort of like amounted to a overall grading. Now they're saying, look, no overall grading, and we like the idea of giving parents a bit more detail about specific things in a school. Like, we agree that's a good idea. So here are 10 areas we're going to look at in a school, so quite a lot more, and we are going to grade them, but obviously we don't want to use that old grading system, so we've got this much better, completely changed grading system. Each of the 10 arears, and I will go over what the 10 areas are in a minute, will be graded as one of the 5 following points. Okay. And they're color coded as well, just for all of us teachers who love color coding things. So, at the top grade...
Is it grade to depth?
I wish it was. I genuinely just wish they used the same for the kids. It'd be funny.
Grade to depth, expected, low expected, working towards, low working towards, below.
Yeah, literally. It could have been. It basically is. It's just proper words. I mean, you'll laugh when you hear them. So
they got rid of outstanding.
They got rid of outstanding. They got rid of outstanding. It's a stupid word. We don't want to grade things on that. And now you can get exemplary.
That is a joke, isn't it?
No, it's real. But don't worry, no, Dylan, because it's purple. It's not a number anymore. It's not like 5 or 4. It's now purple. Because numbers numbers aren't good, because people can compare numbers. They feel bad when they're a 1, not a 5. So now it's purple. You can't compare colours. Again, I'm going to stress this. This is in the 10 areas. So each of these 10 areas I'll talk about in a minute. So you can be exemplary in purple.
Right. So that is the most egregious example of changing something because for the sake of saying you change it I've ever seen.
Wait to hear the one. So remember, just for, again, non-teachers, the old system was outstanding, good,
adequate, satisfactory,
and then it was like requires improvement. Right? So Okay, so we've got
Exemplary.
exemplary at the top, followed by in a nice green,
Right. Okay.
strong practice. Okay,
Two
strong
words,
practice.
not one word.
Not one word.
Two
We don't
words.
do one. Us Labour, we don't do one word systems.
No, apart from exemplary.
We ignore that one. Strong practice. Then in lime green, they've really thought. No, they've really thought about this. Listen, they've really thought about this colour system, Dylan. All right, stop taking the mic. They really thought about this colour system. Okay.
Oh my God.
Then in lime green, because you're not quite green, not really green.
Right.
It's secure. So I don't know what you think about it. I do find it interesting that they've split. Good and outstanding has now become 3. So it's exemplary,
Split
then
green.
strong practice, then secure.
Teachers will like this. More chances
Okay.
to be good. They'll love that.
Exactly. More things to work up.
Yeah,
More ladder rungs. And then
Oh, we need a new colour. Sorry. Can you just do slightly lighter green?
I wish. Yeah. Slightly less green. Oh, they call that yellow. So the next one's yellow. Yellow is attention needed. Not
Improvement required. What is going on?
Not requires improvement, Dylan. It's attention needed. What do you think? Labour aren't Tories, mate. They're not the Tories. All right, they wouldn't do the same thing. Attention needed.
Is this a joke? Is this a parody?
No, this is
Okay,
real.
go on.
This is real. And then down at the bottom, so 5th grade, and their lowest one in red.
Requires improvement used to be.
Cause and concern.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So
Can I give you
go
my,
on.
my immediate
Yeah,
feedback to
go.
that? That makes a mockery of the idea that outstanding, good and stuff weren't good enough. So on its own, right now, I would say, are you joking? Now, what I'm hoping is going to happen, because I'm trying to be balanced here, because that's just funny to me.
Sure.
The idea that they've replaced outstanding to exemplary, we've got to find that funny.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
hilarious.
yeah.
Like, what on earth's going on? What I'm hoping has happened then, because we've not got the overall grade, I'm hoping that what they're thinking with this at least is we can get more detail and just be more accurate for people outside of education looking at the card, like we just talked about the parents.
Yeah.
I don't really see, and we'll see what you say with more detail, how this makes the whole process less stressful for staff.
Sure.
If anything, this seems more stressful because we've now got 10 areas that we're judged against and 5 boxes to go in with colours. Like the idea of a school then, instead of saying, okay, leadership, management, behaviour, okay, education, blah, 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 the idea we've got 10 things to look at and now they all need to not be the lowest thing. It feels immediately like this is more stressful for staff and educators, but maybe better for parents. That's my gut instinct right now.
Yeah, I really think Ofsted were going, just my opinions after reading all this stuff and also listening to other people. I've seen a lot of people talk about it and I really wanted to form my own opinion, right? I don't want to just jump on the bandwagon of, anything Ofsted do are crap, which is realistically what a lot of people do. Like anything the government do is terrible. Yeah. My gut reaction is, I think they were really focused on, and maybe rightfully so, the idea that the one word overall judgment was the problem.
Sure.
Not this idea that obviously we look at areas of the school.
Yeah.
And then my next thought was, okay, well if they didn't have something, whether it's a colour system or a word system that means something,
Or a number system.
or if they didn't have anything, genuinely, how is the average Joe parent and teacher maybe supposed to be able to look at an Ofsted report and like very clearly understand the strengths and weaknesses of that school?
Yeah,
I don't know,
you're
because I know one of my arguments from before, like a long time ago, was scrap gradients completely and just literally write a paragraph, like you know when you're at secondary school, we were there, and you're I don't know what it was like, but my teacher they just write a little paragraph. For
but you know what? At the top, they'd have the grade.
It's true.
They'd have the effort and the attainment.
Yeah.
But
That's
they'd
a good
always
point.
have
Yeah,
an
yeah,
overall
yeah.
thing. You're right. Give both, right? But I agree. I don't actually think there should be no gradings at all ever.
Yeah.
I don't think that.
Yeah.
I think Ofsted could improve in how they do it and how consistent they are and like how thoughtful they are and put into account the whole thing that we'll talk about later in terms of, you know, schools are broken.
Yeah.
It's hard to meet all of these things at once and it's not necessarily always the school's fault.
Yeah.
But you've got to judge stuff, right? So I'm interested now then. You mentioned we've moved from 4 things to 10.
Yeah.
That really interests me because it feels like there's more opportunity for me to be able to say, why are we judging that? Or, oh yeah, definitely, that's really important.
Let me tell you the 10 areas, and if you want to stop me at any point to talk about it, just stop
Go for
me.
it. Do all 10. Go on.
I'd say what I'm going to do just one more time to make it really clear so we can compare. The 4 original ones were quality of education, behaviour and attitudes, personal development, leadership and management.
So
they were the original 4.
What I'm thinking is going to happen here is we could probably place all 10 into those 4.
That's kind of what I'm thinking as well, because a lot of them were 2, weren't they? Leadership and management.
Behaviour and attitudes.
Behaviour and attitudes. Yeah, okay, right. So here are the new 10. Just stop me as and when.
Yep.
So, area number 1, curriculum.
Okay. Do you know what I'm going to do every time? I'm going to say whether I think that's a good thing to judge or not.
Yeah, do it.
Curriculum, yes. I'm okay with that.
Teaching.
Honestly, I don't think that's bad to be graded. However, I I think it could be a massive problem.
Why?
If done incorrectly. We say it all the time now. We look at observations now. If they're done incorrectly in a way that makes teachers feel awful instead of supporting them, it's not good. And it's quite normal now for observations to not be graded in school when it's not Ofsted.
Yeah.
Okay. I like that now because it's more about support and help. Okay.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, do parents or should parents know what the quality of teaching is like in a school?
Yeah.
Yes. That's just quality of education.
But is this the way to do it?
Maybe not. And that's I'm agreeing. I'm saying here this could be a problem.
Yeah.
Okay. It's not like curriculum where I'm like, okay, is the curriculum good enough? Is it covering the curriculum? Is it wide? Is it a range? Okay. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Teaching.
Yeah.
Very quickly changes as well. You get an Ofsted inspection in 2020. There could be turnover of 50% within 2 years. What's to say teaching's just as good? That we're individuals.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's not necessarily going to be very helpful.
I think it opens the door back to what people really hated and genuinely was proven just not useful, which is observations of teachers on standalone lessons.
You're right. Do you know what's going to happen now if this comes in?
There'll
be observations. There'll be trust saying, right, okay, observations will come back. You're going to get colour every time we do an observation. You're a purple teacher. You're a green teacher. You're a lime teacher. You're a yellow teacher.
That's what it was when we started.
Yeah,
and it was toxic as hell.
Okay, so
it was so toxic.
I'm very worried about that.
Yeah, me too. I'm genuinely. I can see why the government were obviously in education we should check the teaching is all right.
Yeah.
But I think they're playing a dangerous game, opening up Pandora's box there with.
I've gone from being
out teachers
to very unsure about that now.
Me too.
Next one.
Next one's safeguarding.
Absolutely.
Obvious one. Next one, achievement.
Depends what it means because, again, depending on area, postcode, what's your catchment like? What's achievement to you? Is achievement simply achieving, expected standard across the board in SATs for English reading? Is achievement more holistic than that? Well, if it is, then how do you measure achievement in history?
Yeah, I'm going to give them benefit of the doubt, and I'm going to assume from the fact that my next word isn't one of the other ones, I think it's going to be about progress.
I was just thinking that.
Because I feel like no one's going to not think about progress, and if I wanted them to be separate, I'd have them as separate. I'd have achievement, then I'd have progress data, separate things. So I'm going to give them a benefit of the doubt and hope that when they say achievement, what they mean is they're going to go into schools, look at children's starting points, look at children's finishing points, and measure their progress.
And that's a fair thing, right?
I think that's completely fair. I actually think that is exactly that's what we do. That's what the key stage tests are for.
That's what the whole thing about school is about. That's all we think about.
Yeah.
How can we get children from A to B?
Yeah. And are they on track? And if they're not, we need to identify. I think it's a really, when we have pupil progress meetings, that's what we're doing all the time. We're saying, well, hang on a minute, this child came in at key stage 1 at greater depth, and now they're looking from our test they're working towards what's happened. Is it an external factor? Is it something we've done? What can we do? That's a good conversation to have.
We're judging it all the time. Why not have a general judgment?
But if they're going to come in and look at SATs data,
right, this is what I mean,
and just say you're above or below the national SATs
that's exactly
data,
it. Yeah,
then terrible idea.
Yeah. Cool.
Next one.
Agree.
So we're 4 in. Curriculum, teaching, safeguarding, achievement. Next one, number 5, leadership.
Yeah, very important. Yeah. Again, I can imagine this puts a lot of stress though. I'm a teacher, right? Who just saw teaching and went, "Oh, that's a lot of stress for teachers." That might be observation, blah blah blah. That might be really bad from leadership top down. The same kind of vibe with leadership. Like, could a leader sit here and go, "Oh, that's really stressful for me. It's not really going to be very helpful." Blah blah blah. In a way, yes, but you don't also have the teachers are lower down in the rung and things can be put on them. Oh, pressure all the time because of Ofsted doing this thing. Who's going to put lots of pressure on leadership? Maybe themselves. True. The governors, maybe.
Can I tell you why I strongly disagree that it's nothing to do with like teaching?
Yeah.
Is because for teaching, to me, the red flag of teaching is they're going to come in and observe you for 40 minutes in a lesson and judge everything on that.
So
leadership,
that's what I'm saying.
What they're going to do, come in and watch you deliver a meeting for 30 minutes and judge the whole of your leadership on that. Yeah. That's the problem.
Or talk to staff.
Yeah, but those sorts of things. Do you know what? If they come in and if what they mean by teaching is they're going to come in and just actually look at the provision that's across your school. They're not actually going to come and watch your individual lesson and grade you as a teacher.
Yeah, but that's curriculum, isn't it?
I know, this is the problem. This is where I don't think this, right? Yeah. But if they came in and they were just looking at curriculum and teaching kind of together, and it was like, what training is there for teaching? But I guess that would come into leadership. This is where I'm struggling to defend it, but. The idea for leadership for me is they're going to come in and they're just going to look at what training are you putting in for your school, like how are you managing staff, how are you managing turnover.
Do you have that folder with the tick box saying you offered wellbeing yoga classes to all your staff? You did. That's great leadership.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I reckon that will still be a thing.
Maybe.
I do. I still think it's going to be impossible to get rid of tick box exercises because they're easy to show things.
As a leader, have you put out an anonymous questionnaire where you ask staff to say what they think about the school and be as honest as possible? Or when anyone is honest, you've asked them to do it again because it's not exactly what you want to hear, and you called them in, you made their life hell. You did. Great leadership. Great leadership.
Brilliant.
Right, next one.
Anyway, okay, leadership. Next one is called behaviour and values. So
I think that's good. Yeah. That's something you can control. But again, doesn't mean walk into a school with bad behaviour, say bad. Awful behavior, worse behaviour than that school, therefore this behaviour is just bad. It's not as simple as that.
Yeah, ignoring catchment.
Yeah. Behaviour is all about catchment. Behaviour is all about. I like how they put values in there.
Yeah,
it sounds like
okay,
your behaviour might be a bit on the bad side in terms of there's a lot of behaviour problems, but your values are amazing. You're upholding standards, and the behaviour in this school is much better than it would have been had you not done these things.
That's the right way to do it. Is what does your school have in place? It's not about necessarily the outcome only.
Yeah.
Obviously, that can be an
that can be different. You can't control that.
Yeah, but it's like, if you look at two schools, one's got a behaviour system and one literally doesn't even have one. It's like,
no
I don't really care about the outcome.
Yeah.
Obviously, the one that has a behaviour system is probably doing a better job at least trying to have values in that school.
Yeah, because do you know what part of that is? People look at it and go, well, that's not the school. No, it's not. Like behavior, a lot of the time isn't the school.
Exactly.
Some of it is, though.
Yeah,
some of it is, and you know what? Let's just have a bit of nuance, and if that's done right, it could be good.
Yeah, I agree. Next one, attendance.
Do you know what? This is one I knew because this is the big one that I saw online. I please correct me if I'm wrong. Please write in if you have a really solid argument against what I'm about to say. But this seems insane. Like I don't understand how a school can be judged on the attendance of children. Okay, I know there could be nuance. Again, I know that some children might not want to attend school because their provisions aren't being met, because the school aren't doing it in an appropriate way. I know that attendance might be a problem if the school willy-nilly sends children home when they're just feeling a bit off. I know that there are some things schools can do better for attendance, but the vast majority of the issue of attendance is nothing to do with schools. It's to do with, socioeconomic factors of families. It's to do with their work schedules at home. It's to do with their attitudes towards education. It's to do with the family values in general.
COVID.
It's to do with COVID.
Seriously?
Exactly that. It's to do with just, anxiety around going into school. It's to do with so much stuff. We did a whole episode on the absence crisis. And I just think if you've got poor absence in a school, and you're doing everything you can, this needs to be you're able to get strong practice.
And do you know what? I'm gonna put myself on a limb here and say I think that's what it's gonna be. I really just hope, maybe is the word. I hope I think you summarised that perfectly well. There are things schools can do. Schools can make an impact to attendance, and I hope they just mean we're just going to come in and make sure you're doing all that you can do within your bound. We know there are extreme external factors, but you know what? 20% of it is down to the school, and we just want to make sure that you're putting your fair share in that 20%.
The ultimate way that this could be tested very quickly is to look at attendance figures and see if it completely correlates to the grades they're going to get. So if it turns out that exemplary is 98% plus, strong practice is 96% plus, secure is 94% plus,
broken
attention needed 92, 90 or less is causing concern, then I'm like, cool, no point doing that. No point.
Broken system. That I should be able to look at Ofsted reports in a couple of years' time and see schools with 82% attendance that are still getting like exemplary.
Precisely.
And look at a school that has 94% attendance and it's not exemplary.
Secure.
Whatever. Exactly. That should be what it is.
Because they're not chasing up that 6%.
Exactly. They're saying, are you doing all you can as a school? We're not going to judge you on the fact that you live in a different area and you know what, these parents just don't want to take their kids to school. Okay. Cool. Hope so. I hope so. I've been trying to be positive because people have been very negative about this. And I'm trying to see a potential way that it could actually work. Next one, preparation for next steps.
Yeah, that seems vague to me. I've not heard this.
Yeah, I don't really know what it means.
Does it mean, as a school, it's very clear you've got an idea of what you're doing badly? Not badly necessarily, but what your next steps are. For example, I know in our school, I could sit down and list the 3 things we're focusing on. Yeah. Maybe this is to do with the school improvement plan. Yeah. You as a school, you're like, actually, do you know what? This cohort of children are well behind in this. Pupil premium children are really not getting a good deal with this. And that's what we're focusing on. Is it about the clarity of that? Is it that staff know that? Well, a good thing if so.
Do you know what? I did read in an article, and it probably is linked to this. I think you're right, because I can't think of anything else it's linked to. I did read an article, like a quote from Ofsted or the government or whatever it was, talking about the idea that they want to put more stress on that idea that the plan for the school is a really important part of the inspection. It doesn't have to be perfect now.
Brilliant.
They were saying actively it's not a perfect performance on the day, but if there's loads of areas of weakness, we just want to see that you've got a good plan on how you're going to tackle them.
I think that would massively reduce stress if we can get that into the heads of people who run schools.
Doesn't need to be perfect.
It doesn't need to be perfect. You don't need to have heard that Ofsted went to a school down the road and said in their report that they loved the way that they did their morning provision when they walked in.
Yeah.
They offered breakfast in the morning or something, and then they did some times tables before they went off. Okay. If Ofsted have said that's good for them, also means that Ofsted are probably, if this new system is what we think it is, have said, but these other areas aren't as strong. Okay, but that's not going to be in the headline report. And schools wouldn't have seen that. And other schools might be doing those next steps really well.
Yeah.
And instead what happens is schools see the top line, that was really good. Oh my gosh, need to do it right now. No, you don't, because you're doing other stuff really well that school wasn't. So what you need to understand is you know what you're doing well already, and you have next steps. It doesn't mean you need to jump on the bandwagon, change it immediately.
Well, let's reflect on our experience for a second. Our school, we did panic. Of course we panicked. It's the old system for a start. We were extremely stressed when we knew Ofsted were coming, extremely stressed. And our school is good at identifying areas that need improving. Okay?
Definitely.
That's what our school is good at. And we identified that our foundation subjects in the afternoon, they were just getting a bit outdated, I guess. It was the same sort of system for a while.
Wasn't hitting the curriculum.
It wasn't hitting the curriculum properly anymore. There's been a few changes. We hadn't updated a few things. And it was like, do you know what? We need to really revitalise our afternoon curriculum. And what happened was, and I'm just being deadly honest here, is we rushed it and we put in so much work because we were obsessed with the idea that when Ofsted come in, it needs to already be perfect. And I like the idea that if I could go back in time and it was this new system, that there is it's really clear that, do you know what? No. They'll be happy with our really good plan. That really good plan we've made, we don't need to rush to do 3 years of workload in 1 year. Let's just show them the plan and they'll be really content. Just as content with that as if they would be, as if we'd already done the plan.
Yeah.
Like that to me, that would have taken so much stress off. Our backs.
The only thing is, don't have a plan for everything and have nothing working.
But
then this is what I mean when I say you can't fake Ofsteds.
Yeah.
Right, because you come into our school, cool, foundation subjects were like that.
Yeah.
English was like down the road of like, we've done all this extra stuff, we're going to do this, that. Maths was in a really secure place. You know, if Ofsted had said, we're coming next month, we couldn't have got maths into a really secure place.
No, as well as
it's impossible.
Else. Yeah.
It would have just been like, oh, we've all got a plan for everything. Is that okay? It's like on Dragon's Den. Yeah. When they come in and they say, you know, like they'll pitch their amazing product, right? And the dragons will be like, oh, I don't think that works. I mean, we should maybe change this or change that. And all of a sudden the investors go, yeah, there's scope to change stuff. There's scope to change stuff. We can change stuff. Definitely. That's easy. It's like, it doesn't really work at that point because you already weren't going to do it.
No,
if they'd come in and said, we've got this, here's our plan to change this because we've identified that's bad, it's a much more sound investment. Same for a school. If an Ofsted inspector comes in and then go, do you know what, we're really proud of XYZ. We understand this isn't great. We haven't had the resources, obviously, as you know, because we don't have the resources to do everything at once. But we know this is what we need to do with that. And we've got a team of people working on that as well.
And here's our really, really thought out, precise plan.
Yeah.
So we've not faked it because you can't do that in a few days.
No.
Here's our really, 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 really precise plan with all of the justifications.
Right, let's switch to the last few.
Okay, so there's we've got two left. Next one, opportunities.
Okay, I assume maybe that's for like enrichment or maybe trips or something. I don't know.
Well, let's think. I'll tell you what, I'm going to do the next one as well because we think they're very linked. The next one is called inclusion and belonging.
I think that's lovely.
So opportunities, inclusion and belonging.
Yeah, to me, opportunities, I don't know, again, I'm hearing this for the first time. If that's to do with like, you know, opportunities for like a wide curriculum, seeing like visitors, going on trips and stuff. Yeah. Do you know what? Fantastic. We need more funding for it though. Don't judge schools on the fact we can't provide those opportunities because we might not have the teacher who happens to be an expert in something, or we don't have a forest school out in the back, or we don't have things local that we can go to. Just like a bit of nuance. Again, inclusion and belonging, really important. I think that comes honestly with behavior and values to me. There's under one umbrella of the way you act, the way you carry yourself, the way you belong in an area. You're part of the school building. It's inclusive. Everyone's part. Everyone's equal. The values you have,
and even like, you know, SEN. That kind of comes to that. You know, are children with particular learning needs included in the lessons properly, appropriately? Exactly. But again, it comes with funding. Both of those things to me, I'm like, if you want to see that being done really well, we need to stop pretending that we can do it now because we can't. It's impossible.
We can have the right attitudes. We can do the right things. We can say the right things, but we can't literally fund these opportunities and things if we don't have the actual money.
We can try.
So I would say, looking at those 10 things, you know, I'm trying not to jump on the bandwagon again of just, oh, this is ridiculous. I feel like, to me, it's almost as if we've gone from the old system had a lot of issues with educators, and we were saying it's overly simplified.
Yeah.
It feels like this is quite intensely more complicated. Like it feels that way.
Well, that's been the biggest. You'll be pleased to know that's been the biggest criticism so far. There's been lots of head teachers, union reps, all sorts of people in education, even in government, that have been saying this is unbelievably complex. Someone said it was like looking through the lens of a kaleidoscope or something like that.
It was all the colours.
Yeah, all the colours. And because there's just so much going on as well.
But isn't that what we were asking for?
Do you know? Yeah, I'm glad. I need to just rant for a second. Right? What do people want? I don't get it. Like I tell you what, I do get. Some people just want to get rid of Ofsted completely. Sure. So any change in Ofsted is just not going to be the change.
I reject that.
I think I do.
But it's when people say defund the police, right? And it's like people go, "Are you insane?" And they're like, "I don't really mean defund the police. I mean put more money into mental health services and direct stuff." Like, well, say that then.
Yeah, say
that's
that.
not what you said. If you're saying get rid of Ofsted, but you're actually going, no, what I really mean is just like Ofsted's outdated. We need to do it in a different way.
Yeah.
Well, say that then.
Yeah.
Because it can just breed confusion. Because if you just sit there and say, get rid of Ofsted, it sounds like to me you're saying, don't hold us accountable at all. And I know that's not what people mean, but what I'm imploring people to do is be really clear of what you mean then.
I think that this new system, right, has the potential to be considerably better than the old system for parents. And also, I do genuinely think it has the potential to be better for educators.
Right.
But like we explained when we went through those 10 things, there is also the complete swing, like the swing the other way. Like with teaching.
Yeah, that's the one, isn't it?
That could be great.
That jumps out at me more than attendance.
Terrible. Yeah.
That really jumps out at me more than anything. Attendance, we all know that like that sounds ridiculous.
Could be
saw
great,
a lot of
could be
pushback. You saying this to me now, teaching's the one that honestly raises like my blood pressure a bit because I worry about those staff in those toxic schools who will now honestly be taken advantage of. And made to feel like crap because someone in SLT who's not taught in 10 years has decided they're yellow. And that means attention needed. That means support plans.
Oh,
and the idea of heading back to that makes my skin crawl.
Yeah, I really wish if I was to change that, I would put curriculum and teaching together into some new word.
Yeah, and do you know what? It used to be quality of education.
Yeah.
And I feel like that kind of almost
Perfect,
was
really?
like enough.
Yeah. Provision, curriculum provision. If they want to change it,
yeah.
Provision, quality of provision, or whatever, because they
Yeah.
can't possibly use the same one that the Tories had. So I'm in a really weird middle ground where I feel like there is potential for this to be better because I do think the report card system is better. We literally said this months ago on our podcast.
I agree completely. By
reports are better because you get more detail and it's not just one word.
But remember, like you said, when you look back at your reports and you said, well, my teachers used to write a paragraph. Your teachers also used to put your attainment and effort rating at the top. Okay. Do we need to grade these things? Honestly, probably. Okay. Because parents don't want to read a 5-page document, and that's okay.
And have to work out.
Yeah.
If that's better or worse than in a different school. It's been written in a different way.
Right. I think what a colour system would do, genuinely, is it would allow you to look at a school, and I don't think this is a bad thing, and say, cool, behaviour and curriculum and teaching are really strong here. Opportunities and inclusion and belonging, less so. So that for this school might be a thing they're focusing on.
Yeah.
But for my child, it's so important with my SEND needs. There's inclusion's really high. It's important to me as a person, as a family. That school has this more curriculum's like okay there. It's secure.
Yeah.
But you know what? I for my values, I think I'm going to send my child here. And do that. I think it's clear for parents. The only thing I would say with the parent thing, the best argument is it's malleable. Things change all the time.
Yeah, I agree.
Because of an Ofsted report, how many schools do we know that were inspected in 2010 as outstanding and still have not been even re-inspected, the minute one 14 years later? Are we going to pretend that's the same school?
Had a whole turnover of staff by that point, leadership 3 times over. No, I agree, but that was a good example of and I put that on some of the articles that I read, like this idea that parents can make a bit more of an informed decision of, what do I want? And that's what we want parents to do. What does my child need? Like you said, my child's got SEN, and and we're new to the area, and our belief system is really important to us, and you know what, in this area our belief system is not a typical belief. I want to go to a really inclusive school that's going to understand my child.
Completely.
Yeah.
Completely that. Okay, cool. So Ofsted in general, their overall aims, like they always talk about striving for excellence, raising standards and stuff like that. I'm not convinced, and I want your quick answer to this. Do you think that this means now they will be striving and pushing for excellence and supporting teachers more because of this change? No, of course not.
I think they're going to report to parents a bit better.
Right.
I'm not remotely convinced it's going to be a better experience for educators, and I don't think it's going to be uplifting for schools. I don't think it is going to deliver high standards and raise standards, whatever
that's what they say
their motto is. I don't think it's going to raise standards.
No.
Maybe passively a little bit, because they've broken it down into 10 things. The schools, rather than having 4 really big descriptors, quite vague things where they're like, I don't really know what they mean. At least now there's 10 things in our school improvement plan, and we just always consider these 10 things. Maybe that will help schools hone in on the right things. Okay. I don't know.
So last thing then, as like a little conclusion here.
Yeah.
We talked about Ofsted wants to, in its mantra, say it's raising standards. I don't think that's what's happening.
Yeah.
The changes they've made, I think, honestly, if I was to just say, are they better or worse? One word judgment, I think it's better. I think it's better what they're doing. I think there's a lot of traps they can fall into.
Yeah.
but I do think it's better. Okay. But okay, strip it back. Last thing we're going to talk about in this podcast then, because we always like to offer a solution. We don't want to sit here and say, well, that's good and that's bad because of this. What do you think then Ofsted should actually be? What to you do you think, okay, if this body is going to exist and judge schools, which is part of Ofsted, at the minute it feels like the judgment is all Ofsted is.
Yeah.
Okay?
I agree.
So we think Ofsted should be wider. Keep the judgment, fine. Okay, get rid of the judgment. It's probably a bad idea. Yeah. But what else should it be?
Okay.
What should we have?
I think Ofsted, if it really is going to meet its mantra on we raise standards in school, needs to be a facilitator for that to happen. For example, Ofsted is the one that facilitates two schools partnering up and they make it happen. They make these schools work together, peer support. Because I really do think the best way to improve standards is teachers talking to teachers. We had some staff training the other day at our school delivered by an English expert who is a teacher from another school, but it just happens to also be extremely passionate expert in English. And it was the best training I've ever had in 10 years.
It was inspirational.
She was unbelievably inspirational and knowledgeable and knew exactly what she was talking about.
I wish I could remember her name because I would call it out right now.
Tara something. I don't know what her surname was. Annoyingly, Works Pixel. But she, I mean, we'll talk to her.
I was blown away by her knowledge, her understanding, and it made me sit and think for the first time. I want to do. Do you know what
made me think? Oh, okay, can I come to your school then and see how you do it? And because that is the best way to learn. What I don't need is Ofsted coming in and telling me, "Don't think your plan for English is very good."
Yeah, and do you know what's great about that? When the inspector comes in, right, to a primary school to do an Ofsted inspection, and you look at their LinkedIn because you're a bit nosy before. Oh, what's your experience then? Worked as a head of school in a secondary school for 15 years, led sixth form, and done nothing to do with primary ever, and was head of humanities. Okay,
but they were good leader.
Brilliant. They come in though to a primary school they've never worked in before in a rural area they've never been in before, and they sit there and they have to tell me if my maths planning is good or not. I don't want to listen to you. I don't value your input genuinely. I really don't. I don't think that's helpful to me. You're not going to raise my standards in maths. I'm better at teaching maths to primary school children than you are, and you're an Ofsted inspector sat in this room telling me what's right and wrong. That is completely broken. Send an expert to me, because do you know what? When an expert sits down, when we had the English training and we sat down and said, here's our plan for term 3, we're using this book. She said to us, I don't think that book's very helpful for these 3 genres. It might work for that one. What else could we do? I immediately, my back was not turned up by that. I was, okay, thank you. Brilliant. You know what you're talking about. You did it in a constructive way. You talked to us like professionals. You backed it up with your knowledge. You said, why don't you try this and that instead? It wasn't just criticism. It was raising standards. It was, this doesn't work because of that. Try this instead. It'll be better for your kids. As a professional, we have the utmost respect for that when that happens, and we listen. And that's the difference.
I agree. And okay, you know what? I'm going to summarize my point really, because you've kind of hit on everything that I would want to say. I think Ofsted needs to, I like these new changes, but it only in the context of it has to become one string of the bow. It has to be one part of their system. It's like, we report on schools because parents really need to know how these schools works. And do you know what? We've scrapped one-word systems because they were just stupid. And actually, we've replaced it with a 10-point grading system. So parents still get an idea and they can compare schools, but they need to look at all the individual points and they can, whatever, all the things we said. But in the meantime, because we also raise standards of schools, we do exactly that. We go into schools and we facilitate and identify, because they're busy in schools, we facilitate and identify experts who can come in and help them with their school improvement plan. And they come in and they raise standards together. We do peer-to-peer support. We link schools together. You're not in an academy. These guys are in an academy. They've got a bit of peer support here. You're going to go and talk to that academy and see what ideas they've got. Because I tell you what, as Ofsted, I know that their maths curriculum is unbelievably impactful and excellent there. And they've got a similar sort of catchment to you. So go and have a little meeting with them. We've facilitated this. That's what Ofsted need to do. And I think all the people that are saying scrap Ofsted and replace it with this sort of thing, they have the same intentions of that. I just don't think we should scrap the report card system as well. I think we should have both. Have both. That's what I think. I don't know if you think.
I completely agree. It's a balancing act. Okay, it's a seesaw, right? What Ofsted doing at the minute is they very much were too heavy previously, rather, to being really clear to parents. That's why they had the one word report. It was very helpful for parents. Parents loved it. Parents knew they could send their child to an outstanding school. Brilliant. Or not send their child to a reprise improvement school. Okay. What we did was we balanced the scales a bit by saying, do you know what? We can still be helpful to parents without burdening staff. That's the other side of the seesaw. The more helpful you are to parents by doing these judgments, the more you're burdening staff, really. That's what was happening. It was like a real stress burden, such high accountability. It wasn't helpful. So they brought that balance back a little bit. Okay. That seesaw is all Ofsted is right now. Ofsteds need to be a park. Okay, we've got the seesaw over here, where between parents and accountability, that's one thing going on. Cool. That's not just Ofsted though, because we've got the slide over there.
Yeah.
And you can go on the slide afterwards, and we can help facilitate the experts to come in and help you do that.
Yeah.
Also, we've got a roundabout. That roundabout has 4 schools on it, all trying to do the same thing, all trying to improve. And we've got someone pushing the roundabout who's done it themselves before, and we can help you do it. Okay. So we need to widen the scope of what Ofsted is.
Yeah.
It's not just this judgment scale of trying to, how can we balance between parents? That's just one part of it.
Yeah.
So much more could come out of just widening the scope of Ofsted to actually help raise standards. And if we do that, schools will improve. And that's all we care about.
Oh, do you know what? Oh, that was such a good analogy. I love the park analogy. I'm going to use that all the time. What does the fence represent in the metaphor of the park? How many gates has it got?
The fence represents the budget, and the fence is closing in.
We've
got no room. We've got no room for the slide anymore. We ain't got room for the roundabout. It's just a park with a seesaw in the middle with all the parents on one side. That's all it is. And of course it's broken.
I'm annoyed at how perfect that is. It's so perfect. It's so perfect. We need more gates on that park, so let more people in to push that fence back out. We need more money is what I'm trying to say. Yeah, do you know what? I'm going to leave with that. I'm going to finish with that point. After everything I've said here, nothing will change without funding.
Yep.
I don't know how many times we need to say it on this podcast. Bridget, if you're listening, we need more money.
She's on a run, I think. She's posted that she's on a run this morning.
Oh, bummer. I knew she wasn't going to be listening. But there we are. Maybe in the future she'll listen. And we need more funding. Nothing will change. No. Nothing will change. The whole chat was pointless if we don't get any more funding. Honestly, nothing will change. So give us more money and we'll do these things.
And we'll build a slide.
I tell you what, we'll build 2 bloody slides.
Go on,
and a roundabout.
Guys, thank you so much for listening. Hope that was helpful. Please do, if you've listened this far, you are a legend. I would love it if you could leave us a nice review wherever you're listening to your podcast. Send us a message. What are your thoughts on these new Ofsted improvements? Are they improvements? Are they getting worse? Let us know what you think, and we will catch you next time.
See you later.